Bret Bielema, Illinois coach. He was in Chicago talking to some folks yesterday. Meanwhile, the conference commissioners were in Asheville, North Carolina, talking about the college football playoff format. But let's hear what Bret Bielema said, courtesy of our friend Nicole Auerbach of NBC. He said, I don't think there's any way we could do a 16-team playoff if the SEC is not at 9 conference games. We, as in the Big Ten coaches, voted unanimously to stay at 9 and actually maybe have an SEC challenge. I was told they voted unanimously to stay at 8 and not play the Big Ten. But then some people pop off and say they want to say what they want to say because they want to look a certain way. Okay, let's unpack that. The SEC coaches, the coaches, are never going to be like, let's play 9 conference games. They're always going to want 8. It's a matter of whether their ADs and their presidents will change it to 9. And that seems to rest in the hands of the conference commissioners who are discussing the playoff format.
You know what I think is interesting, though? Because is that true, what he said? Like, I don't know if that's 100% true.
What about the SEC coaches wanting to stay at 8?
Voting unanimously against playing the Big Ten.
It's not voting. They didn't vote against playing the Big Ten. But if they don't go to 9, the Big Ten's not going to do the challenge. The only way the Big Ten does the challenge is if they both play 9 conference games.
Oh, he's saying because Brian Kelly said that in the room that he was for the Big Ten SEC challenge.
He's for playing the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Is he for playing 9 conference games? Again, none of them are.
So I do think it's interesting, though, because your thought process on why the SEC coaches will never want to play 9 games is also true in the Big Ten. Why would the Big Ten want to play 9 conference games? There's a higher level.
They already do. Because and their presidents and ADs have told them we're not going back, we're not changing it. So tough.
They're not going back. They make more money this way, right? So like that's good. But like I feel like the sport would be grateful if we could get an SEC Big Ten challenge every year.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. So
just like they do in basketball.
It feels like they've gotten into this weird, like the SEC sort of talked its way into a very strange place when it met in Destin. And perhaps we'll find out more when the commissioners finish this meeting in Asheville, or the next time maybe the Power 4 commissioners meet, because that seems to be when stuff gets done. This is all of them, all 10 conferences meeting. But went into Destin with kind of battle lines clearly drawn. The SEC would go to 9 conference games if the playoff went to that automatic bid scenario where the Big Ten got 4 and the SEC got 4 and Big 12 got 2 and ACC got 2. But came out of Destin with the SEC saying, wait, okay, maybe we don't want to do the automatic bids. Maybe we just want it to be the highest ranked teams, 5 conference champs, and then the next highest ranked 11, which I don't know about you, Ari, because I go back to what Greg Sankey kept saying. He kept using the word displacement. He doesn't want teams that were ranked higher to be displaced by teams that were ranked lower. Well, that would seem to be an argument against automatic bids. So what does he actually want? And I think he's been very careful not to state a preference. But I think we need to figure out, before we can figure out what's going to happen next, what Sankey actually wants to happen. Is it the automatic bids, which would allow, because he's always wanted 9 conference games in the SEC because that can make them more money as well. And that gets the 9 conference games. But it might get you less teams in the playoff. You might get more teams in the playoff just doing it straight ranking. So
I'm happy you're talking about this because I legitimately have no concept whatsoever of what the SEC prefers. If the SEC got its way, what would it look like?
I think it depends on who you ask in the SEC. Like the coaches want to stay at 8 games. It's weird because the coaches want to stay at 8 games, but then they want preferential treatment on strength of schedule and all that. They could just not worry about it if they had the automatic bids. But again, if you do the automatic bids, you might, let's say you go back to the era of SEC dominance. Let's say, like, remember 2010? 2010, Mississippi State was 15th in the country and 5th in the SEC West. Like, that would be the SEC's dream scenario. But if there's automatic bids, you're probably getting less teams in than if you had them, just ranked.
Yeah. I'm confused. And you want to know why I'm confused? Because every time I look at like a tweet from Ross Dellinger, it has like AA plus 111, and then I start getting back into like math class from high school, and I'm like, what does this one mean? What does this one mean? I have a hard time with it.
I also wonder if sometime during the SEC meetings, some of the folks sat down and was like, because they were talking about the automatic bids, which if you get the automatic bids, you probably get those weird play-in games like 6 versus 3 and 4 versus 5. And somebody's like, can we just not make this so complicated?
What is the best is probably just 5 plus 11, right?
The best might be 16.
Period.
Yeah. I go back to what Lane Kiffin said. Let's not pretend the conferences are equal, because they're not. 16.
Also, too, for the 16 guarantee G5, though, I think you need to guarantee a G5 spot.
I think you do, just to keep from getting sued. So,
because like if you just
probably the best compromise there.
If you just did 16, how many years in a decade do you think a G5 team would be represented in the 16?
That's a good question. Like, Boise State definitely gets in last year.
Yeah, like 3 out of 10.
Probably. I have to go back through the. I wish we had talked about this beforehand, because we could actually look it up. But it would not be every year. That's for sure.
But I also think that historical context matters too, because I think that the way that they would rank them changes based on what the rules are. I think
you're right about that.
So, like, you can go back and look, here's how many times it would have happened, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a reliable thing.
So 2023 would not have happened, because Liberty was the highest ranked at 23rd at the end of the year. 2022, Tulane was number 16.
Okay.
So they would have gotten in. 2021.
Unless they were 17 in the system.
Right, then they wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. 2021, BYU was an independent in 2021, so that would have been the one that got in, I guess. They're not really a group of 5, so there wasn't a group of 5 team.
That counts.
Yeah. 2020 was the odd year, because you had Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina in the top 12 at the end of the year. But nothing about 2020 is normal. 2019, Memphis is number 17. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 3 out of 10 years. I don't know. I feel like
you're probably right.
If you're gonna have a practical 16 team bracket and we're going to expand, I think you also have to ensure that the entire sport's included in it.
From a practical standpoint, for that reason and to keep from getting sued, I think you're right.
But I also think too that like 5 plus 11 makes a lot of sense, because the 5 guaranteed spots outside of the group of 5 are already basically guaranteed anyway, because there's no way the Big 12, ACC, Big 10, and SEC champions won't be represented somewhere in. You can do 5 plus 11 and then seed them straight.
Yeah, and I think that's the plan. Now, here's the question. What would it take to get the Big 10 to that? Now, how about this as a compromise, which I can tell you right now they're not going to do, because this makes too much sense. What if the Big 10 said we'll come off the auto bids if the SEC will go to 9 conference games? We'll do 5-11 if the SEC will go to 9 conference games. That would give both sides something they want, and both sides would have to give up something that they don't want to give up. But that's how compromises work. So why not just do that? Like, you could announce that tomorrow. You don't have to meet 8 more times between now and December 1st. You could announce that tomorrow, and everybody be cool.
And then also, too, the SEC gets to make more money.
The SEC does get to make more money on that.
I am so torn on this, because I actually don't get fired up about the 9-game versus 8-game thing. I know coaches do.
Coaches do, because coaches get fired if they play more conference games historically. Because, well, that's not true. they have a higher possibility of taking an extra loss. Whereas if you have freedom to schedule that game, your fourth non-conference game is probably going to be an easy one.
But the SEC schedules are still statistically harder.
Agreed.
Already.
Agreed. Yeah.
They're already
Bret
hard.
Bielema, what 8-game SEC schedule would he trade for? Missouri's probably. But if we look at Illinois' schedule, this because you brought this up months ago, and I agree with you. There's not really an 8-game SEC schedule that a Big Ten team would trade its 9-game conference schedule for. So Illinois has to play Indiana, USC, Ohio State, Washington. Okay. Throw up. All right, River. Let's just pick an SEC schedule at random. Throw up Texas A&M schedule. I'm putting him on the spot there.
Yeah, he's going to do it. I'm happy you didn't
He's
pick
got
up.
it. I see the finger. I see the wait 1 second. We're going to get it.
That would have been in bad faith if you would have gone Oklahoma. Okay, here's A&M.
There it is. Now, A&M is playing Notre Dame out of conference. That's tough. But in conference, A&M has Auburn, Florida, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, and Texas. I think I'd rather play Illinois' 9-game schedule than that.
Illinois got a good
close.
Illinois got a good draw this year.
But that's a pretty medium draw in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that based on the draw, or the draw is based on how many top-tier teams you play, and they only have to play one. Now, there's a lot of Big Ten teams that have to play 2 or 3.
Yeah. I mean, having to go on the road to Indiana and Washington is tough. But you're getting Rutgers, Maryland, and Northwestern. And I don't know how good Wisconsin's going to be.
Yeah, their last 4 games seem to be like if they can get to November 1st with 1 or 2 losses, they might be in this thing.
Yeah. As producer River points out, Duke is not a gimme, but Duke's their good non-conference game. Texas A&M's good non-conference game is Notre Dame on the road.
Yeah. I'm with you, pal. I'm with you.
So again,
thing,
you keep these guys keep saying, well, they got to play 9, they got to play 9, but their 8 is tougher than your 9. But so make your 9 tougher than their 8, and then maybe this is an argument.
But it is possible in 10 years.
Yes,
Big Ten's 8
agreed
or 9 is their 8 would be tougher than the other team's 8 or the other conference 8. That's the thing that I think is so interesting. And I fired up a lot of people on the internet a few weeks ago before I went to Arizona. But it's like, I feel like the hardest thing about college football is that we have to make wholesale, steadfast changes during a time in which the sport's evolving greatly. And I think that's difficult.
I saw a tweet yesterday, Ari, and I wish I had looked at who said it. I don't think it was anybody in our business. I think it was a fan who said this. And I'm sorry, I'm not giving you proper credit, but it was a great thought. Why not just stick with the 12 for a few more years just to see how that goes? Like, you don't actually have to change it if you don't want to. You could just have it be like this for 5-6 more years. The contract's 6 years, the TV contract. You could just stay at 12 and then figure this out when the sport looks different.
The thing I think that we both agree on is that just 16 straight would be the best in the expanded format. But if you go to 16 best, why are we expanding again? Like, I thought the entire point of expansion was to get guaranteed spots. Isn't that the entire point?
It seemed to be to me that seemed to be the rhetoric around it. Yeah.
Why would we expand if we're not going to change the formatting of it? It makes no sense to me.
Well, there's one more piece of why you expand. You expand to guarantee access to the Big 12, the ACC, and the Group of 5, and possibly more access to the Big 12 and the ACC, so they don't sue you if you're the Big 10 and the SEC.
I think that they have guaranteed access right now.
Right, but this would be more access. You got to bribe them because from an antitrust standpoint, like, this is kind of the Big 10 and the SEC taking over, colluding. So you do have to kind of bribe the ACC and the Big 12 and the others.
I didn't go. I watched Law and Order a lot when I was growing up, but I didn't go to law.
Not a lot of antitrust cases in Law and Order. Those are mostly criminal.
Yeah, there's always like DNA evidence at the crime scene.
Dun, dun, dun.
What's the grounds If they're all in the same system and they all have the same guaranteed locked up spots to be sued?
Well, they don't. They have a document that's signed that says the Big Ten and the SEC can make all the decisions now.
Oh, well. Yeah. I guess, yeah.
They don't have equal votes anymore. So
I just feel like if they were to sue the Big Ten and the SEC, would the SEC go, you know what, you don't like us? All right, fine, do your own thing. Is that
I think that's a distinct possibility. That would be the defense.
Yeah, that's the defense. All right, fine. You know what? You think you're treating you unfairly? How about this? You go live out on your own. Isn't that what a person, a parent does to a 17-year-old who's not behaving?
Yeah, because
you live under my house. These are my rules. Because the Big 12 in the ACC, especially the Big 12 to a more, a greater extent, is living in the Big 10 and the SEC's house right now.
Yeah, in the guest house. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine suing if you lived in a guest house of there was a mansion and you lived in the back in a 1,200 square foot?
You're in the pool house. Yeah.
You're in the Carlton Banks pool house. And then you sued the owner of the property because you didn't have access to the master bathroom. Is that what you're saying they're going to do?
Pretty much.
Okay. Got it. Seems like a really compelling.
So the SEC and the Big Ten basically have to just keep improving the pool house.
Yeah. I actually don't think you have to improve the pool house at all. I think the answer is live in my crummy pool house while I look out from my master bathroom at the pool, or go live in an apartment complex down by the mall. Like that to me is right? They're not going to get sued.
I'm glad we finally broken this down into terms everyone can understand. This is perfect.
Is that not nonsense?
It's not. It's not at all.
No, I think that your thought that they should expand to stop from being sued is nonsense. Let them sue them. Let's see what happens.
It's not nonsense though. It's what they're doing. That's why they're talking about this.